Welcome to Jesus and Tim in Las Vegas. My job is to get gospel tracts out on the streets and highways and byways here in Las Vegas. The tract that's going well now, right now, and explains everything that's going on is entitled "Somebody Angry?" ? Has a picture of a funnel cloud on the front, and it's put out by Chick Publications, and you can read it at chick.com, C-H-I-C-K, chick.com. I encourage you to read that. We come your way every Saturday afternoon at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Some of you are listening in the Eastern and Central Time Zone. You can go to kkvv.com, Victor.com, and hear the program that way. And then after the program airs, a couple hours later, usually Mark will have that up at JesusandAndTim.org, JesusAndTim.org. Just click on Archive and Schedule. And if you want to see what Dave Peffley has done with the newsletter, should have seen it when I had it, just click on Newsletter. He does a wonderful job. We've got the October newsletter where we talk about where we went to Chicago, the hoods in Chicago and Washington, D.C., and also, little did we know, the African American Day at the Smithsonian was taking place. We had all these tracts for our black friends, Was Up, Unforgiven, and Is Allah Like You, and man, oh man, we couldn't give them out fast enough. So thank you so much for your prayers and your support. We were to have Wayne Allen Root on today to talk about Donald Trump, but he's traveling with Mr. Trump. He essentially was the MC at the get-together in Henderson here a few days ago on Wednesday. But we have a couple of dear friends of mine, Dale Davidson and Dan Fox. And first of all, Dale, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, Tim. And first of all, let me reiterate something that I think embarrasses you. You are a modern-day John the Baptist. It's true. He's out there all over the world passing these tracts out, 300 a day, 7 days a week on the Strip, and in every trouble spot in the world. So, Amen. God bless you. I wish I had the guts to do what you do.
Well, if I ate locusts, it'd be because of the protein. 70 grams of protein in every locust.
The honey. I'd have the honey, though.
That's right.
I'd have the honey.
Praise God.
I'm a broadcaster as well, and operate KNBX Channel 31 here in Las Vegas on the sub-channels, which you watch over the air, Back to the Future on Antenna TV. 31.2 is Newsmax TV, which is a conservative, pro-family, pro-life news organization. And then on 31.5, we have a program called The Walk TV. And The Walk TV is, as in the Christian Walk, a 24/7 Christian television station.
And you're going to be emceeing Annie Meadows' concert coming up.
I am. I'm looking forward to that. First up, Annie is going to give her testimony and sing at the Walter Hoving Home Banquet on October the 20th at the JW Marriott. You can buy tickets for that at eventbrite.com. All the money goes to Walter Hoving Home, which helps women who are caught up in prostitution and drugs and alcohol and things like that. And then on December 16th, she's bringing back her free Christmas concert.
That's great.
Yeah, which she used to do regularly out at Lake Las Vegas, but this time Trinity Life Center has graciously opened their doors and said, whatever you want, Annie. So she's going to, again, this is a free will offering concert, and the money goes to the Walter Hoving Home. So I'm going to MC that.
Very good. And the date for that is?
December 16th.
16th, okay.
Yeah, it's a Friday.
And I see this fellow on my extreme left every Monday night when we go into Clark County Detention Center. Dan, tell us a little about yourself. Dan Fox.
Sure. My name's Dan. Some people call me Deacon Dan. I'm a deacon of the local church and Paradise Church here in Las Vegas. And Tim and I have been friends for years. And he encouraged me to get started going out to the Clark County Detention Center. And I think I'm here today because we have lively political conversations.
Exactly.
Over, I was going to say, Chinese buffet, you may well be eating locusts and not even.
Well, you hear people say, well, never talk about religion and politics, but John the Baptist did.
He sure did.
And he was killed for it. But
screaming at Herod the Great would not be the first thing that I would have done.
No.
Calling him out for sin.
That's right. And yet we have an election. I'm 70 years old. I'll be 71 next month. But I think this is the most important election we've ever had in our lifetime.
I agree.
You agree?
Yeah.
And
I think we're at a turning point as a nation like never before.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I want to talk about what Jesus would do if he were walking into that voting booth a month from now. Now, we're not saying you have to vote the same way Jesus would, but let's talk about. I don't understand how a person. Let me just say this: a person can be a professing Christian and vote for Hillary Clinton. Here is a lady who has just said wonderful things about Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood. Margaret Sanger of Planned Parenthood, the founder of Planned Parenthood, said colored people are like weeds. They need to be exterminated. So black lives do not matter to Hillary Clinton. So keep that in mind, folks. Don't get suckered in with some of this propaganda. But at the same time, is Donald Trump the answer? We've heard the news. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. I could call Fred and get the elephant out of the room, but let's talk about this issue where he was, 11 years ago, talked about, grabbing women and things of this nature, and this is when he was married, and he would just do this, and we're thinking, oh, for crying out loud, what's your take on that? Both of you fellas would be voting for Donald Trump, but has this changed your mind at all? And if not, why not?
It hasn't changed my mind in the least. Not because I approve of what the guy said or what his attitude is, but to me, it's not relevant to the point. Pastor Greg Laurie was just on in the show leading up to your show, and he was talking about Esther and how Esther saved the Jewish people, and the key scripture in that book is you're here for a time such as this. And such a time as this. And I firmly believe that that's Trump. He's here for such a time as this. And then, you'd say, well, that's ridiculous. Well, there were 15 Republican candidates, many of whom are professing Christians. He surely wasn't. Why would God ordain Donald Trump to be president of the United States? Well, why did God ordain Cyrus the Great, in the Old Testament, and Isaiah called it 150 years beforehand, saying Cyrus the Great, a foreigner, a Persian king, is going to save the Jewish people, order them return to Jerusalem, and help them rebuild the temple. Who else would do that except the Lord? And when you think about it, there are other politicians in history who weren't Christian, and they were ordained at critical moments. Churchill in Great Britain, even Ronald Reagan, when it comes down to it, not really apparently a strong believer. Lincoln, people were all worked up about Lincoln, because he was a skeptic and he was not a member of a church, and he quoted the Bible all the time, but he was never a church member. So, God had other people that he could have picked, but I don't think we're supposed to vote for the preacher in chief.
Yeah. Well, I remember the last time I did that, I heard Jimmy Carter say he was born again. I thought, oh, wow, this is the first time I've heard this. And so I voted for the guy.
Oh, yeah.
I remember having him on with Amy, his daughter Amy. She had a book that she was promoting, and we brought up the subject of abortion. And she hung up, and, he just defended it. And Dan Fox, tell us about yourself.
Sure. Well, in the aspect what you're talking about as far as a Christian voting for Trump, I agree with what Dale was saying, but I think it's more fundamental. What is a president? And you referenced that, Dale, at the end there. It's not the preacher in chief. We're not electing a pope, God forbid.
Right.
President is a constitutionally defined job that is a leader of government. Government in itself is a necessary evil that God ordains and allows. He says, have respect to those who have authority over you. Pray for kings and for all that are in authority, that we can lead a quiet and peaceful life. But the job description of President of the United States is not that it's a born-again Christian or even a guy with a clean mouth. He talked about Lincoln was a very depressed man who struggled with mental illness, but he did great things like freeing the slaves. Reagan is a great example. My first election that I could vote in age-wise was re-electing Ronald Reagan. A man who had his flaws, certainly, but who I think was fundamental in furthering the cause of Christ, because we as Christians were calling out and asking for that. He kept the communist menace at bay. He kept us out of World War III. Mr. Gorbachev tear down that wall. You know, I see Trump as a trumpet of the Lord whose big mouth is revealing so many dark secrets that a lot of people were not aware of. And they're becoming aware of them because he's exposing these things, bringing things that are in darkness out to light. I also think his leadership capability and what he's accomplished will give him the ability to make changes in our nation, like now keeping the Islamo-Nazis that want to literally cut our heads off and are infiltrating, coming across the border probably every day and we don't even know about it, putting that to a stop. He's already said he calls himself at least nominally a Christian, and he'll be the best friend Christians have ever had. He'll be the best friend Israel's ever had. You know, he's a man, but he is a proven leader that he gets things done and he does what he says he's going to do. He has $10 billion, right? So from a worldly point of view, I think he's a man who can get things done in the job of being president, and that's why we should support him. We'll be able to street preach, hand out tracts, fight against the wickedness of abortion and all these things more and more. If Donald Trump is the president, we certainly will lose so much ground if Hitler is elected as president.
Yeah.
So it's just a pragmatic choice that I think we should make on that side.
Well, it's just an amazing thing. Dale, you have something there that I heard you share on Annie Meadows' program.
The other day. Just this past Tuesday.
Tell us about that.
Well, it made me start thinking about this, and you and I have talked about it when we get together at lunch and so on, is I basically found out that in 2011, a gentleman was prophesying that Donald Trump would be president of the United States. And the story behind it is a fella who has a show called True News. I think you're familiar with it.
Rick Wiles.
Rick Wiles, who was at TBN for a while, I guess. And he went to his doctor, and just a routine visit. He was going to his doctor, Mr. Wiles was, and he was talking to the doctor's wife, who helped the doctor there in the office, and they were talking about Trump and could he be the same subject? Could he be ordained by God to be president of the United States at such a time as this? And she said, that's funny because I got a letter not long ago from a retired fire department lieutenant named Mark Taylor, who prophesied exactly that. And this was April 28, 2011. And Las Vegas figures into this because he was watching Trump doing an interview on television after he had appeared at a Clark County Republican event right here in Las Vegas. Wow. And he was watching him, just, he's on the news, and, this guy's watching him. And he said he heard the Lord's voice say, "You're listening to the President of the United States." And so when the interview was over, he turned off the television set and he wrote down what he thought the Lord was telling him. And that's exactly what you want me to read?
Yeah, please.
So this is the letter. Quote, "The Spirit of God says, I have chosen this man, Donald Trump, for such a time as this. For as Benjamin Netanyahu is to Israel, so shall this man be to the United States of America. For I will use this man to bring honor, respect, and restoration to America. America will be respected once again as the most powerful and prosperous nation on earth. The dollar will be the strongest it's ever been in history and will once again be the currency by which all others are judged. The Spirit of God says the enemy will quake and shake and fear this man I have anointed. They will even quake and shake when he announces he's running for president. It will be like a shot heard across the world. The enemy will say, what shall we do now? This man knows all our tricks and schemes. We've been robbing America for decades. What shall we do to stop this? And the Spirit says, no one shall stop this that I have started. For the enemy has stolen from America for decades, and it stops now. I have anointed this man to reap the harvest that the United States has sown for and plunder from the enemy that which he has stolen and return it sevenfold back to the United States. Now, I think this one's key. The enemy will say, Israel, Israel, what about Israel? For Israel will be protected by America once again. The Spirit says, yes, America will once again stand hand in hand with Israel, and the two shall be as one. For the ties between Israel and America will be stronger than ever, and Israel will flourish like never before. There's more, but I think that gives you the idea of what the letter was about.
Now, let me ask our Israeli friends. I mean, if you're Benjamin Netanyahu and you watch that debate between Tim Kaine and Mike, what's his name?
Pence. Mike Pence. Yeah.
Last Sunday night, and you heard the fact that when Netanyahu was speaking before Congress, Tim Kaine, the vice presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, walked out. He walked out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. And, you know, it just, the Bible says, I will bless them that bless you and curse them that curse you. Here's Hillary Clinton. She's always siding with the Muslims, open borders for the Muslims, and, you know, good friends with Yasser Arafat. I think it's really a no-brainer. I mean, if for no other reason, now again, I'm not telling people who to vote for, but if the president were to die, President Trump or Clinton, who would you want as president? Mike Pence?
Oh, absolutely.
Or Tim Kaine?
Yeah, Mike Pence.
You
yeah.
know?
Yeah, he's a Christian man, clearly a Christian man, a believer, has been for many, many years, and he's right down the middle, evangelical, Republican, conservative.
Yeah.
You know, and Tim Kaine, I don't know much about, but
he played the Joker in Batman, I understand.
I thought it was the Grinch that stole Christmas.
Oh, maybe that was it.
Yeah, that's it. That's funny.
Oh, my nose is growing.
There you go. There you go.
But let me ask you this, though. We know that Hillary favors abortion, even partial birth abortion. You can Google that. Does Hillary Clinton favor partial birth abortion? Donald Trump is opposed to abortion, but with the exceptions of rape, incest, and the life of a mother. Now, somebody asked me last week, who created life? Obviously, the answer is God. Does God ever make mistakes? So there's going to be some people that don't vote for Donald Trump because of his stand on that. What would you say to them, Dan?
Well, I think to sum it up generally, Donald Trump is a work in progress. Many of us really like him because he's not a politician. He's not a polished mouthpiece that we so often have seen. He's not a lawyer. He's not a politician. He's a businessman. And some people say, well, we've never had a businessman as leaders. All the founding fathers were successful businessmen. Some of them were also lawyers and other trades. So that's an interesting reference. But no, I think that's exactly why people like Donald Trump, is because he doesn't have a refined position on every issue. He's a work in progress, and what got to me was watching an interview with him shortly after he had seen the videos showing Planned Parenthood, these live babies being butchered, moving on the table while they were being harvested for the organs. He said, this is horrible. It's insane that we allow this. I'm not quoting him exactly, but he had a guttural, real reaction to seeing babies slaughtered. I think when anyone asks him, he knows it's a trap. When any other politician or a news person, quote-unquote news, is asking him about a pro-life position, it's a trap. It always is. So he's taken the position of just quoting the pro-life Republican position to get through to the next question. That's kind of how I see it. Seeing how he operates, the way he fields things. When people ask him about his religion, he's usually evasive because he knows it's a trap. But I think he's a work in progress, A. B, he's surrounding himself with very, very pro-life people like Pence. He's committed. Some people say, who we put on that Supreme Court. I think you've mentioned that he has a sister or something who's...
She was appointed as a federal judge by Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
She believed in partial birth abortion, and he
Right.
talked about putting her on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, he mentioned that, but when it came down to policy, he gave us a list. He says, when you elect me, these are the people I'm putting on the court.
Yeah, there were
Very
11 real conservative jurists. Yeah.
Good.
So I think on the one hand, discern where he's playing the politician. On the other hand, thank God he's a real man. He is looking at issues. He still has a soul, which many politicians, I think, don't.
Right.
God help us all. So, yeah, that's my general outtake on that. For me personally, absolutely. I believe in abolish human abortion. Every child is created by God, just like I was in my mother's womb. And I know people who are the product of rape or incest. I don't want them killed because their father was fiendish.
Right.
So I think he is very teachable. He'll understand these things more and more. More important, like we so often say, let's be real. The choice is, right now before us, Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton,
Yeah.
who likes babies partially born before they're murdered,
Right.
and who supports Margaret Sanger, a eugenicist. And when you and I are down there in front of that murder mill on a Saturday, so many of the people coming in that back alley are minorities. Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry is fulfilling that goal. In some cities, more than half of the babies slaughtered are minority. More than half of black people conceived are being murdered in their own mother's womb.
Wow.
So it is a genocide, and he's opposed to it. To me, it's very clear which way the Lord would have us go. Also.
That's Dan Fox. Dale Davidson, if you could give 2 minutes of advice to Donald Trump tomorrow. Tomorrow night is the second debate at Washington University in St. Louis. What advice would you have for him?
Well, first on content, I wouldn't ask the guy to change. You know, he's got the right ideas. As you say, he's a work in progress. He clearly has respect for us as Christians, and he understands that 30 to 50 million voters in the United States are Christian voters, born-again Christians. So they're going to have an impact. They're going to turn this election. So I would say, you know, a nod to them as he did in Cleveland at the GOP convention, and you might have heard this, Tim, because you were there, when he thanked evangelicals for supporting him. He said in kind of a soft way, I don't know that I deserve it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting, because he holds Christians, and particularly clergy, up on a pinnacle.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of an old-fashioned thing, you know, to say, you know, you guys are, I was only a businessman, you're clergy.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's his attitude. But on style points, I would try to avoid the attacks. You know, I know that's him. It's going to be hard to rein him in. I'm sure his people are trying to rein him in. But the fact of the matter is, he allows himself to get suckered into positions.
Well, what about though? What about
you should avoid that.
Jennifer Flowers, who had an adulterous relationship with Bill Clinton for 12 years, wrote in her book. She asked Bill, "Is Hillary a lesbian?" And I'm cleaning this up, but he said Hillary's had more women than I've had.
Wow.
So Hillary is bisexual. That nobody's brought that out yet. Should that be brought out?
I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it. You know, I can see and hear frustration with
But
people.
this explains why she has gone after the other women. She has no relationship with him.
Yeah.
She wants to be
understand
president.
that. Yeah, I understand that, and she's willing to do almost anything to get the job. I think at this point, Donald Trump needs to appear to be more presidential. You know, we're only a month out, you know, basically. And I think now's the time for him to say, you don't need to be afraid of me. You know, they said the same thing about Ronald Reagan. Don't put Ronald Reagan next to the button, you know, because he's going to blow us all up. Well, of course, that didn't happen, and it's not going to happen with this guy.
No. All right. Closing words, 30 seconds, Dan Fox.
Yeah, I think as far as the debate, he needs to not get caught up in anything. The only personal issue to me that is a winner against Bill Clinton is he's a proven serial rapist. Don't get caught up in the infidelity, quote unquote. Deal with the fact that he's settled cases and Hillary has helped him to be a sexual predator. But like that and everything else, he just needs to focus on his agenda and his issues, get that communicated across regardless of what they do.
Dale, 30 seconds.
I would just ask my fellow Christians to pray before they vote.
Amen.
And before they step into that booth.
Amen.
Who do you want, Lord? And as Tim said at the top of the show, how would Jesus vote?
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know for sure. I don't know what he would do. But, you know, we need to try to discern God's mind in this case and also understand clearly that this is between you and God.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Dan Fox. Thank you, Dale Davidson.
Thanks, Tim.
And thank you, folks, for listening. You can hear today's broadcast in a little bit by going to JesusandAndTim.org. Just click on Archive and Schedule. Thank you, Mark Britton, for that. And click on Newsletter to see what Dave Pefley put up. God bless you. And remember, 1 Corinthians 15:58. I'll let you look it up. Bye-bye.